The language element in Dublin Core is the language that is used within a resource. It is important because it allows an item to be discovered by its language. For example, if you have a song, one version recorded in English and the other in French, a user could specify that they want to view the resource in French and get the correct resource they are looking for. The language element only applies to linguistic content. Things such as images generally should not have a language element unless there are significant amounts of text in the image. It is recommended that the language element use a controlled vocabulary such as ISO 639-2, ISO 639-3, RFC 1766, or RFC 4646. This element is repeatable. It is best practices to separate each language into its own element. However, some systems do not allow for this. Then, if the system doesn't allow for it, it should be separated by punctuation such as a semicolon. The publisher element in Dublin Core is the entity that makes a resource available. This is an important element because it can help to narrow down similar records to a specific resource. For instance, if you have an ebook that for some reason has been published by two different entities with slight differences, you can find the one the user prefers if you know the publisher of the version you are in need of. The publisher can be anyone from an individual who publishes their own works onto the internet, such as my own collection of digital photographs published to Flickr, to a traditional publishing house. The Dublin Core publisher element does not have a location of the publisher in it. It is omitted in most Dublin Core records. There also is no encoding schemes or qualifiers. Here is how these elements are used practically for an image. I took this image from my collection of images that I'm working on for our term project. This is 2 Meeting Street in Charleston, South Carolina, photographed from the southeastern perspective. The photo was originally taken by my father, Michael Warren. However, if we look at the photograph and try to implement the Dublin Core elements of language and publisher to it, we see that the language element is not present. Just because my father speaks English and it is taken in a city that it speaks predominantly English does not mean that we assign this element. We should leave it blank. And for publisher, he published this image onto Flickr, so he is the publisher because he is the entity that made the resource available. I hope you've learned a little bit more about the Dublin Core language and publisher elements. Here is a text that I used as reference material for this presentation. It is the Miller text that we have been using all year in this class.